everybody. See, if everybody they won't give Argentina lead in this World Cup, maybe they just do am. Maybe they show this subtle things. Maybe they stop them. Personally, I hate Ojoro. See, one thing is, let's be honest here, right? We watched that game. Messi was top notch. No, I no good lie. Forget what the way we usually do. That's the way that his second goal was world class. There's nothing anybody wants to
Yeah.
tell me. But for real, bro, that third goal was just all smelling, man. Because there's so many incidents involved in that game. You said Egypt's goal.
Go.
Somebody stepped on Lisandro's foot. Okay, can't you use the same consistency? That is the same thing where we face for Premier League like mad every season. You step on person leg. Okay, they step on Salah leg. Look at it. Can't you use the same metric or the same gate to actually compare? Okay, no, free that one. McAllister drag person from back. The thing too clear. Okay, look at. Don't even argue. Go look VAR. VAR was clearly there to assist you. VAR could work for Argentina. It don't work. Suddenly everybody went to sleep for when it came to Egypt's one. Now the one even call even verse me. They say the Egypt coach. If you notice, the Egypt coach made this sign. He made this sign. If you see him,
Yeah, what
I don't
does
know if
that
you
mean?
saw it.
Yes, I saw it.
If you
I
saw
saw it
it,
towards the end
you
of the
didn't
game. I
see
was
it.
like,
If you didn't see it,
what does that actually mean?
That's like the same for racial discrimination. That's the same. When you see person do X, just listen to racial discrimination with the sub for that particular. And the thing is,
Because I saw him
VAR
do
don't look at.
it was
And now because that
slightly
means
it was not having it at all. Not even just him. Both him and a couple of their players as well, like they weren't having it. They were ready to
they're ready
start
to
the
fight
brawl.
now. They're ready to fight.
Allows them to do.
And tell everyone verse me now. I say I post one thing. They talk say for France match, all the referees are from Argentina. How? Explain to me why that is.
I don't know how true that is. France is going to be playing Morocco. I don't think they would really want to they won't really want to favor Morocco in that game. I don't know honestly.
Bro, so the thing is, let's be honest. If we are being very honest with ourselves, Morocco already is very formidable. I'm not even sure for France. They might not sure for France.
They are formidable, but formidable past formidable. Now they are going to play. They are going to play France.
No. See,
France
one thing, they play France. So, and the thing is that they are not the same side. They play France. There's France that eliminated them.
Was it not France who eliminated them? I think
it was France. It was France. But the thing is, the Morocco where they play now is not the same as that team before. Now, which I want to tell you that because that Morocco team, they were not as good, as exposed or as experienced now as they are now. And they are a match for anything in the world. All this Morocco, Norway, those two sides, they go. If you even go watch match on Sunday, say Norway will beat England. That is how crazy it can be. Because those sides are not the same size.
England next game.
Yep.
I think the Norwegians can win that game, honestly.
They can.
England. I did not think England is going to beat
Mexico.
I swear that I thought Mexico was going to win that
game. I think we fell in the same shoes.
If you look at it, they drew Ghana for God's sake. Their last game against Congo, they nearly lost that game. I did not even think they were going to win. And again, Mexico have not conceded. They've been winning all their games. They are playing at home. They have that home advantage. I thought that no matter what England is going to do in that game, Mexico were actually going to that they would just find a way to win the game. Like I was shocked.
So my bro, one thing we need to also realize in this kind of tournament, JJ, is that it's not maybe apart from France, and I would argue it's arguable. I think it's not a tournament of tactics. It's not a tournament of tactics. It's a tournament of characteristics. For example, England, they are not. If you are talking about tactics, the only tactics where that man do, where I hailed, is switching to a 5-4-1, a 5-3-1, especially if you consider they had the red card, and making sure that you were able to defend a lead from like 60 to 90. That takes a lot of this thing, and also a matter of luck, right? But the owners to understand game management, that is tactical awareness on this one. But If
Yeah.
you look at, but if you look at it in terms of tactical, there is no tactical awareness. For England's characteristics, they believe that they are more physical than any other team in this World Cup, and they believe that physicality and stamina is going to ride them through a lot of games. They can use physicality and stamina to blow many teams apart beyond technique. That's what Arsenal used to get to the final.
Yeah, but there's no way
Arguably,
England is going to be open on physicality, playing an African side. Now they play Congo. How can physicality be what they will be banking on?
no. So,
Feel
so, so, no, no.
like
How can I use this word? How can I? That's why I use the word stamina. I use the word stamina. African teams, they can beat you, they will outshine you on a physical level. But in terms of stamina over 90 minutes and to concentrate over 90 minutes, it's not an African thing. At some point, they either lose that concentration or they fade out. But if you look at teams like England, Argentina, they are teams that they might not be 100%, but they know how to win games. They know how to win it. They know that as long as I am still in this game and I have some things riding for me, like Argentina, they know that as long as Lionel Messi is on that field, something must happen.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that was what played out. So, and the thing is, like England now, they believe that there are some points I just need to maintain enough stamina. At some point, you tire out. And my physical characteristics that I have in people like Declan Rice, people like Harry Kane, people like Jude will stand out. France, on France that we call the most balanced, I would argue that they are not focusing more on technical components. They are more on a more balanced team. If you look at their midfield, look at the likes of Tchouaméni and this thing. Their own job is not to even push upwards. Their own is to just do the dirty job, protect the defense, and give the ball to the remaining four. This is not me going in there tactically, right? But if you look at it, have you seen something unique tactically that the French team has done that you say, yeah, that is tactical aspect as tactical work. I say, but it's
Yeah.
nice to meet
Yeah.
you, Chip. It's nice
Good
to
to
meet
Yeah,
meet you,
you.
sir.
Good to meet you, boss.
you're
Good to
welcome,
meet
Wale.
you.
So, Wale, what do you think? Do you think we've seen the best game in this competition so far? Like the most exciting one so far in this competition?
It's up there among the most exciting, but I think the England Brazil game will still take the most
Yeah,
exciting
yeah, yeah.
exciting tag. This was good. Egypt played well, but they collapsed. Like after the 2 goal margin, there's no other explanation about it. They were good for about 80 minutes, then they just collapsed. The conceding that 1 goal just sent them into panic mode and they lost their identity. They were not playing like themselves again, and that was it for them. They were done.
Yeah. So, do you think this is actually a thing that we should? Yeah, looking at African teams so far in this competition, same thing happened to Senegal. We saw Congo do the same thing. Now
Yeah.
it's happening to maybe even Cape Verde. Now we see it can happen to Egypt in this game as well. Is this actually is it actually a thing? Like this pattern has seems to have formed, and it's not even something some people even dated it as far back as Nigeria in the competition in USA 94. That is basically the same way we crumbled against Italy. Like we led that game throughout. They were even 1 man down. And Italy found a way to win that game in extra time. They beat us 2-1 in that competition. So some people have even found this pattern as far back as that time. Like, is this really a mentality problem with African team? Like, can we actually say this is a problem? This is a real thing with African team that we collapse at the later stages of games.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I was good. It's a problem. It's definitely a thing. I was gonna blame it on coaching, in one sense, but a lot of our coaches are not even indigenous coach, so you can't even really say it's like we have like some of the best coaches, even the indigenous ones and the European ones and the foreign ones that we have there. They're some of the best, but in this competition, like, one of the things that everybody knew before going to competition was the hydration break thing, and it was it's only a hydration break in name. It's a tactical timeout for every solid team. Teams that are very good at not just playing but reading the game are able to use that break, realign, give new instructions around how people should adapt to the change. For example, Argentina changed their play. Messi was no longer playing center forward; he was permanently on the right wing, and things like that. So I've seen like the very very good teams take advantage of these breaks as tactical to change the game. but I have not seen the same from the African teams. Like they have pretty much just played as if that break was just for drinking water alone, which that's what FIFA calls it, but every team knows that it's a tactical timeout and every team has responded accordingly. Somehow, I think we didn't adjust teams. We just played the same way, and that's the pattern I see. Like after that break, within a few minutes, the game changes and the African teams have pretty much collapsed for most part.
Dele, what do you think?
So, yeah, just to add to what he rightly said, I personally believe that games are decided in moments. It's not decided as in a marathon stretch as people think. Some games you might, like I mentioned about the Argentinian team, they know how to win and they understand that with players like Messi, it's all about moments. But first and foremost, one thing I do know about African teams is that it's a mentality thing. It's like a mental block. I believe that they come with, I would argue, too much respect for the opponent. And at some point, when they feel that they have gotten sufficient leads, they believe that it's right to actually just sit back and soak as much pressure as you can. And one thing I would say is I have a common saying that a 2-0 lead is the worst lead in football because it's a lead that builds momentum. Because once you concede one, the momentum comes to concede two. And when it comes to moments like that, you saw it from the Belgium and Senegal game. I immediately the Senegalese conceded the first one. I told my friend that while watching the game, I was going to be a 3-2 win for Belgium because I knew that it comes with a new owner because it's harder to actually defend a game than to attack a game. And when you score one, that momentum or that onus to score more would be more on the side that have been focused on attacking or being pushed to attack as opposed to the team that will defend because it requires a change in tactics. And to not tie it into the hydration break, most times when an approach to attack is, will I say, not working, that is not most African teams see that hydration break as a chance to actually recharge themselves, to actually stick to their defensive onus, as opposed to teams from other parts of the world. They try to also see, apart from that hydration, to see where they can attack African teams or to hurt them. And I think another thing I would also add is that most of these players from other parts of the world play at the top-notch teams in the world and understand this momentary lapse in concentrations in various parts of the game and believe that once you can stay in the game and you are focused, chances will definitely come and it's left for you to finish them. But if you look at African sides, not many of our African footballers, arguably, it's a change from but if you look at it from side, most of them are indigenous and there is a different level of intensity that they play at as opposed to the teams from other parts of the world, and that also plays a part.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense because if you look at the composition of the Egyptians and compared to the Moroccans, for example, most of the Egyptian players are sort of like indigenous. Compared to Moroccans, I think it's just maybe one player in Moroccan team that was actually born in Morocco. A lot of their other players were foreign born, and foreign born, which also means they started their football education outside of Morocco, like in European countries. So they sort of like have different mentality compared to maybe the Congolese. I mean, the Congolese also have like a couple of players who are also born, maybe British-born footballers, but that can also explain the fact that this collapse. But then again, so can we actually say that if you are the best way to protect a lead is not to defend and pack the balls, because that is actually what we've seen coaches do in the past with the Simeones of this world, the Jose Mourinho's of this world. The way they defend their lead is actually to actually sit back, put as much body in the defense as you can. But this seems to have not been working, at least not so far for African teams in this competition. So can we actually say, even if you are leading, you should still continue, go all out, attack, or continue playing the way that you are playing?
So this could be is a pretty sensitive subject because if we watch the Egyptian game, right? I wouldn't say the Egyptians were scared, not scared to attack because they actually had a goal that I feel was wrongfully ruled out. But I feel that we are still lacking a balance to things like this. naturally, we are not as we can't be claim to be as talented as these other sides. I would say yes, we are coming up in terms of talent, but at some point we need to understand that in specific scenarios, games are effectively managed. You need to control games better as an African country, and controlling games is not scoped to just defending from 0 to 90, especially when you score the goal, because you are just inviting pressure. And we've seen the need. We mentioned the hydration break a lot, and it's because of the climate. You can't keep defending in hot temperatures of over 40 degrees where your legs are practically burning, right? Or you actually in need of water, because when you do pass the ball or you are in constant possession, you are actually releasing the ball more and being more stations to actually attack and out of your position, as opposed to running around the field. Because if you look at the way they are passing along different passing lanes at different angles, and you need to adjust yourself or adjust your tactics, and that is a lot of work and requires a lot of concentration. I will still tie it back to the issue of games and moments. The moments you lose concentration at one particular point, even if you have the best structure, the chances of you conceding a goal is very high. And the problem is we Africans are not so good at that concentration, in concentrating from 0 to 90, which is mastered over time. You mentioned the Moroccans. The Moroccans are an outlier because most of them have been part of countries or systems that understand game management, understand positioning, understand game awareness. And this has played a part in what Morocco has been able to achieve, as opposed to teams in Africa that play from an African league that move to maybe lower divisions in England that don't put more preeminence on those.
Yeah, so Wale, what do you think about this? Packing the bus no longer works anymore. What do you think?
So I think packing the bus requires a very high level of discipline that is hard to find in international football, in the sense that you have to play over and over again. You will typically be good at it in leagues where you play like week in, week out. It requires very high level of chemistry. Packing the box can work because you know what to expect from everybody. You know how to cover. International football, you probably play every one game, every 2 games, every 3 months, here and there. You play like 2 tune-up games before a 5-6 game tournament. You don't have the chance to build that chemistry, to be tactically defensive, to have that tactical onus to pack the bus. So to compensate for that, you don't want to put yourself in a place whereby you are under relentless pressure. So you just cannot pack the bus. Yeah, I think I saw defensive discipline from some teams. For example, England, they were able to manage, they were able to close out the game against Brazil pretty well. But even at that, they still considered a penalty in the last, even though it was just a consolation goal, they still considered in there. But that just shows that, and that's a team where you can see they play a lot, even if they're not playing as a team, they play in the same league and things like that. So parking the bus in international football is very rare. I don't think it's a viable strategy.
It's a viable strategy. That's interesting. I mean, going into the round of 32 after the group stage, so we had 9 African teams qualify for that round of the competition. And we felt like, okay, maybe this is a competition for African teams. And how many of them made it to the round of 16? Just 2? Is it just Morocco and Egypt?
Morocco and Egypt.
Morocco and Egypt. Yeah, it was just Morocco and Egypt. Like we lost 7 of them in that round. And after the round of 16 now, just Morocco is making it to the quarterfinals. So far, would you say this has been a good competition for the African teams, looking like relative to other editions of the competition, despite the fact that at the end of the day we are still having one team in the quarterfinals anyway? So, which is not
for me, yes, and I would say that I would say it also justifies the need to actually for an expansion of a tournament to allow more African teams in. The only way people can get better is, or teams can get better, is if they are exposed to more competitions like this. And one thing I would say is the margins have not been as high as some people would say. I'm coughing. Gennaro Gattuso would make us.
Yeah. He had a lot of opinions.
Coffee Gennaro Gattuso would make us. It was too loud about it, and I feel that generally it's not the case. You could see the likes of Cape Verde holding Argentina to a standstill. Same thing as Egypt. That is a quantum improvement. We could say packing the bus, but I would say some of the African teams were pretty brave. They actually showed all the more equipped teams the template to actually beat Argentina, not giving them the respect you feel that they deserve, and you hit them square on. Senegal, at the end of the day, also fell for the lack of concentration, but that doesn't mean that the gap has been reduced. It has significantly reduced, and it can only get better if teams are more exposed. I just feel at the end of the day, we need to actually learn our lessons, because this should not just be a once in a lifetime experience. But I feel that, like Morocco have done over the past 4 years, it's all about consistency and maybe possible improvement, because we are also saying Morocco could actually make the semi-final. Who knows? Maybe the final as well. So there are signs that there is notable progress, but there's still more to be done.
Agwu, my brother, you're welcome. if you can
Hi
talk,
guys,
it'd be nice. But yeah.
1 minute. Hi guys.
Hi guys.
Thank you so much for joining. I've been expecting you since I sent you the link. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Yeah, so yeah, you are going to jump right in. So, the question Dele was sort of answering is so far has this been a success for Wale left? Hopefully he's going to jump back.
Oh,
Has it been a successful tournament?
hopefully, as well.
In the round of 16 or in the round of 32, we had 9 teams making it out of the group stage. After the round of 32, just 2 of them qualified for that round. And after the round of 16 now, just 1 team is making it to the quarterfinals. And normally, ideally, one African team making it to the quarterfinal is usually like a success for us, because most of the World Cup editions, we don't even have any team from Africa making it that far, apart from maybe Senegal in 2002. Well, I think maybe Ghana also made it once to the quarterfinals.
Yes, Ghana has made it twice actually.
Yeah, Ghana made it twice. So far, really, do you think this has been a success? Even if Morocco doesn't make it past the quarterfinals? Yeah. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, perfectly, bro.
So I think it's been a relative success if you consider the teams that made it to the tournament and those that made it out of the groups. So for a team like Cape Verde, it's been a resounding success. For DR Congo, it's been
muted. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cup. For Egypt, it's the same thing. So for me, it's a success. It's not, for instance, Nigeria making it out of the groups, and we've been there before and can't progress beyond the second round. So you're seeing teams that have never gone beyond this point. Some have never scored goals.
Yeah.
Some have never won games, and they've been able to make it to the next. They've been able to make it to the next round. So for me, it's some kind of success. It's a disappointment for teams like
Yeah.
most quality and should be able to and should have been able to navigate the teams they faced. They didn't face teams that gave them a lot of challenge and were unable to just hold in some situations hold the lead or be able to just give that extra to go be, especially for Senegal. It was a major disappointment for it seemed like DR Congo. You can't have expected them to win England, unfortunately, or Cape Verde. So for those ones, it's fine. But for Senegal, a major disappointment for me, because they had the quality to do it and they had the opportunity to do it. For Ivory Coast,
Yeah, muted again, Agwu.
You're muted again.
Yeah, I suspected. Yeah, that would have been the. Yeah, I sort of like love the angle that you are looking at this from, because if you look at it look at the stories. So if you look at it from that angle, looking at the stories that some teams in this competition have sort of like created, we can say, okay, this has been a success. Because if you look at the numbers, for me, looking at it from the numbers POV, I don't think it has been a success. Ideally, okay, in a round of 32, when we see had like 32 teams competing in the World Cup, we used to have like maybe 5 teams. And in round of 16, if you are lucky, one African team will make it to the quarterfinals, maybe 1 or 0. Fine. This time around, we had 9.
Nine.
And from there, everyone fizzled out. Like the regular share started happening after then. 9 from 9 to 1, which is what we've always had. But if we look at the story, so forget about the numbers now. Look at the story. Same thing. Egypt, prior to this World Cup, they had 0 win. Like they've never won a game. In the group stage, they managed to win 1. They came second in their group. They were on the verge of their second win at the World Cup and actually eliminating the World Cup giant. They were on the verge of eliminating Argentina. Look at Cape Verde, for example, as well. Like Cape Verde were outright underdogs. Like if you rank all the teams that qualified to this World Cup based on pedigree, maybe Cape Verde is just going to be ahead of teams like Curaçao and maybe 80. So from Curaçao, 80,
It was
I
very
don't
strong.
think
So
Cape
it was
Verde
very
has
strong.
any.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they barely are like bottom 3 or bottom 5. If you look at teams in terms of pedigree, but look at what they've been able to achieve. Like Cape Verde pulled a draw against Spain. Spain is in the quarterfinal of this World Cup. They pulled a draw against Uruguay. They were on the verge of actually taking Argentina to penalties. So looking at that story as well, DR Congo, they've not been at the World Cup since the 1970s. They came back again. They were able to get a draw. Some teams are actually scoring their fourth goal.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, that silos of stories and all that, yeah, it's been a relative success. And so yeah, I would agree that this has been a success if you look at it from that POV. But for me, in terms of the numbers, I think it's still the regular timetable for African teams. That is what we see.
But I think, yeah, as much as I'll readily agree with you, I feel that that's an unfair metric because
Okay.
it's an unfair metric because one thing is the teams that they faced are not minnows, right? The Norwegian team that beat at the Ivory Coast, which we would say was quite a painful defeat for them, they beat the mighty Brazil as well. I think if you do say they didn't do well enough, that would also be unfair to the Norwegian team.
I think we need to for this current Brazilian squad, we need to put that mighty in quotations anyway. Mighty, I put a lot of history behind it. So if you look at this Brazilian team in isolation, are they really mighty? Do you know how Brazil actually qualified for the World Cup?
They struggled. I think they finished fourth. It was, I think, even fourth or fifth. So the thing now is Brazil. So Brazil in isolation, right, are like an isolated case. But you would even say, despite the circumstances surrounding this Brazilian team, you believe that they should blow away the Norwegian team that has not played the World Cup for 28 years, ignoring the fact that they have probably the best center forward on the planet, arguably the best center forward on the planet, and some very, very, very good players, the likes of Odegaard and whatnot. But we need to also realize as well that they were favorites, right? And Norway blew them off, and Norway have been pretty solid in the course of their journey. But you also look at the Belgian side. The Belgian side practically finished third in the last World Cup, or fourth, I'm trying to remember, in 2018. And they have world-class players. They're not minnows. So I feel that some of the teams that the African teams faced were not teams that you would, if you were a good punter, you would want to place any bets and say that, okay, that the African teams would beat, maybe apart from maybe Belgium and Senegal. Maybe Senegal would do it. But I feel if they were against less relatively inferior sides, then maybe, just maybe, to be fair to say that it was the same old. But I feel that considering the strength of the opposition they faced, that may be a tad bit unfair actually.
Okay, I mean, okay, let's move on so that I don't take much of our time. There's
Sure.
one narrative that have been going on. I want to hear, so Dele and Agwu, I want to hear your opinion on it. So there's this narrative that I've been hearing on social media and even, from other medias as well, that the reason why the gap seems to be closing between the giants of international football, the Spains, the Brazil, the Argentine, and to lesser known, lesser quality sides, like let's even say the African side. That the reason why the gap seems to be closing is because most of African players now, most of footballers are now playing in Europe. So they're not getting trained they're not, undergoing the same training as the players who play for these bigger teams. So because they're now undergoing the same set of training, the gap between them is now closing. It's unlike the early 2000s, early 90s, where fewer African footballers are playing in Europe. So now we have a lot of them playing in Europe, a lot of them playing in the Champions League, the same training, the same coaching. So the gap seems to be closing. So do you think this is actually true? Do you think this is the reason why we now have a team like Morocco getting the better of Netherlands, for example? A team like Morocco going head to head with some of the going head to head with Brazil, teams like Senegal, almost eliminating Belgium. So do you think this is due to the fact that we now have a lot of African footballers playing in Europe and it's the same condition, the same training? So do you think this narrative is true? Agwu, you can go first.
I think it's mixed. That's definitely helping. It's just like with club football, the gap between the big teams and the smaller teams have closed. The quality in coaching, access to resources. I doubt they had video analysis back in the day. You probably now have access to these things. So if you even look at teams like South Africa, they're not playing in Europe. Teams like Cape Verde, where are they? But I think it's access to that. I think they still have access to some. The coaching gap has closed. So back in the day, you probably had the top teams being coached by the top coaches. But now the minnows are still okay. They're not there. I mean, you can still see the deficiencies in their methods. Look at Senegal, look at Ivory Coast. You can still see deficiencies in their methods. But I think the quality has closed a lot. And to your original points, playing abroad has also helped. So it's like you will be facing Bruno. They play twice a week or twice a year in the league. So you don't have that fear that you're playing someone that is way above you, because that also plays a part, which I think is still affecting some of the teams. Like you can see what Kessie was saying after the game. Norway hasn't been in the World Cup since '98, but he was saying they have more experience. So those things still play a part, but I think that has also helped to reduce the gap.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Dele, what do you think?
Yeah, so to add to Agbu's take, I would say, in addition, I agree with most of what he said, but I also would add that it's a reflection of what modern football has turned to. For me, one of the greatest things that made a difference was that there was more focused in the past on technical guile and creativity. And they had, if you look at most of all the teams that could actually hurt other teams or could affect other teams, you will see that the difference in technicality was they had somebody that could actually create things, that could unlock defenses more than most. But most of the requirements or metrics for football now is less on technical creativity and more on efficiency, ability to run around. There's more focus, there's less focus on data and less focus on technical characteristics and more on data, runs per 90, statistics and whatnot. And if you are exposed to the same thing, you are exposed to the same level of knowledge, and there isn't any serious delimiter, right? Or saying that, okay, this is what I have over you, right? It's going to be the playing field is going to be pretty much the same. That is why if you look at all the teams that are dominating now, they have players that are not just limited to the same limited skill sets, that data and all of that. There are people that have that level of creativity and guile to open defenses. Case in study, France, the likes of Mbappe, what's his name, Ulisse, Dembele, and all of that. They have that technical guile, and those are differentials between all of these teams. But you look at all of the other teams, they rely more. That's why if you look at most teams, they prefer to score and close close the gap because they don't think they have the technical skill to score more goals, right? And the thing is, at the end of the day, most of these games are like more or less a battle between who has more stamina over the 90. And if you have more stamina over the 90, likely you by likely win. So the gaps have been closing because the skill sets are more or less that are required to succeed in football are the same. So if it's going to be like that, that is one thing. Also, countries like Morocco, and this is where other African teams should look at, is that there is a level of continuity that some of these countries have experienced. If you do want to actually close the gap, since I've mentioned that there isn't any serious limiting characteristic that separates one country from the other, you need to actually model whatever you have to what those other countries have. And that is what Morocco is doing. Because if you look at it, Morocco have probably the best equipment and facilities, arguably in Africa and arguably in the world, in terms of training, in terms of stadium, in terms of stadia, in terms of scouting networks and whatnot. Because you can look at the fact that most of the players were done by proper scouting, the likes of Ayub Wadi, Brahim Diaz, what's his name again? I'm trying to remember this guy at Abdi.
Yeah, he was a Dutch under 20 international. So ideally,
Saibari as well. So you can see that they have that continuity. They realize that they were gone to something in 2022, and they are continuing. That is why the gap will continually close, and that is why they are way on par with all of, because you can't the same way Spain actually focus more on talent, focus more on all the data and metrics and scouting is the same in Morocco would, and Morocco are one step usually ahead of most of all of these countries in snapping up talent that are of Moroccan origin. And as long as that has continued over 4 years, it's only going to get better. But other African countries need to catch up on this and realize that there needs to be proper structure in place to actually lead that level of continuity, because the things that limit countries in terms of talent on the field is a dying breed, because it's less on technical prowess. It's more on your technical, on terms of your how much you run and how much physicality you have. That is what stands out a footballer average in these days. So most of these countries that have closed this gap or are continually closing this gap have seen this and are only driving harder into improving those particular metrics or those particular lines to reduce the gap between them and other countries.
Agwu, do you think this also explains the decline in Brazilian football? Do you think the fact that we've moved away from individual brilliance, technicality, we're now going to data, how far you can run, do you think this really explains the decline that we've seen?
I think it does significantly. I've probably mentioned this before. So I don't know. I think what I would call technicality, I guess is what you're calling raw skill. So what you had before, and like with people like JJ and the Brazilian guys, they had a lot of flair. But back in the day, you would survive with flair. You have your guy pinned 1-on-1 on the wing, you dribble, you cross, there's a goal. But today, teams are nullifying you with farmers. So that's what I'll call technical ability. But I mean, it's still that whole structure. You have teams that are built on solid structure. That's why you'd go and play a Derby County with a sensible coach, set the team up properly to nullify you, and you suffer. But back in the day with teams like Brazil, you give the ball to Ronaldo, leg over here, send to Danielson on the other side, leg over here and there, and they brute force their way. And I think it also affected teams like Nigeria for a bit and that's why you're probably saying that we are not having players from the local league coming through. You have still those very powerful and skillful players in the local league, but that's what I would call technical ability. But I think you have a different name for it, where you know where to position yourself at the right time. You have the sense to release the ball at the right time. So we don't have efficient players. We just have people that want to dribble. So that whole dribbling from back in the day and run and shoot, it's no longer useful for you. See that today, okay, for instance, look at Saka, could dribble, could do one or two things. Before the season ended, teams now figured out how to deal with that kind of situation. Back in the day, you chop on that for like 5 years before someone catches up with you. But today, there's video analysis for farmers in Latvian Division 7 to see that if we double up on this guy, life becomes. Of course, you still have that raw talent that can push you a bit above, but just raw talent won't take you anywhere, which is what is happening with Brazil. They still probably have their guys that can dribble, but their guys that can dribble are not making it out. It's the guys that are extremely efficient that would still make it. Then, I mean, people like Neymar are a dying breed that was skillful and had the football brains.
Mm.
Today, you can, and that's why people say football is dying. I don't think so. It's just more. It's just more efficient. It depends on what you're optimizing for. It's just more efficient.
But are you
And
trying to say that players like Ronaldinho will not succeed in today's football? Like if you bring the Brazilian team of 2006 of 2002 and they are playing in today's World Cup, you think they're not going to go as far because they're made of players with flair and dribbling.
so,
Robinho will not make it past. Part in Norwegian defense. Is that what you're trying to do?
so some of them would because they were of the highest quality, right? And some of them would. People like Kaka would. People like Rivaldo would, right? I don't know about someone like Danielson.
Yeah, I mean, it was
You,
spamming. And he knows how to
you get what I'm saying? Someone like Gilberto Silva, for example, was smart and had one or two things going on for him. So I'm not saying a lot of them would not succeed, but people like them, Townsend, would not have a career. You could see that even Townsend did not necessarily have a career if you think about it. Because he was fast, could dribble, but that was it. Then there was Bale that could do that and was smart. So I think it's a mixed bag. You're going to those that were very good would still come up to the top or would adjust. I would say rather they would adjust.
So what do you think? What do you think Argentina is doing differently that Brazil of today is not doing, or that Brazil has not been doing for the last pretty much the last decade? Argentina have been doing.
With Argentina, I think for them it's that thing you said about Morocco, where they have some talent and they have a coach that has been able to harness their individual qualities and make them work together, if that makes sense. So in national teams, those teams that are cohesive would always trump those teams that are just bringing stars together and playing on vibes. If you check with Spain, De La Fuente, you can see that he came from the federation, took the, I think, under 17, under 20 Olympics. It was a gradual process. You can see who is Oyezabal? And that's his main striker. At a point, Merino was his main striker. So you see, yes, having top quality players helps. But I think in national teams, if you have above average players and a very good coach, then you would succeed. The teams that are succeeding in European football are still in world football today. You will see there's a pattern. France has a lot of talent and there's continuity. Spain has a lot of talent and there's continuity. Argentina has a lot of talent and there's continuity. For Brazil, I think they are going through a period where Don Carlos just took over last year. They've changed how many coaches in how many days.
Yeah.
With Tite, they were not as bad as the world made them look. If you really think about it, because I don't like a situation where someone goes out on penalties. And yes, for them, it's a failure, but you have to look at the context of the failure. I know we don't like explaining failure, but you have to look at it from that perspective. Just like same thing with England. That's another very good example. There was continuity with what's his name? There was continuity with Southgate. And in my opinion, Southgate and England have been very successful for the past couple of years.
100%.
Losing a final on penalties don't count for me. Or losing a game in extra time. You've done. Sometimes it's just you're unfortunate. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Sometimes it's just unfortunate. So with Brazil, you see that with Tite over time, they were very close to knocking out Croatia.
Mm.
It was also a very solid Croatian team that again had the same characteristics we've been talking about. They've been together for a very long time and play with a certain level of cohesiveness. So, I mean, with national team football, I think that's like a very key ingredient, that cohesion.
Mm. Mm.
Well, for
Dele,
me, I would like to be, what I say, I don't want to use the word devil's advocate, but I feel that, yes, there are some things I can actually pick out, but I think Brazil's decline has been on since, wow, it's
2014.
been a while. It's been a while. Thank you very much, my brother.
2010.
No, 2014, actually. 2014.
That
And
scandal was to Germany
yeah,
in
yeah, exactly.
quarterfinal.
And I saw a quote on Twitter. I'm trying to verify whether it's true or not. But Cafu, the legendary captain, actually mentioned something that if he actually had his way, he would naturally encourage the Brazilians to go to the Premier League to play.
Mm.
And I see, and the more you watch their games, you see why. And it leads me back to how what the football is viewed today. And I'm going to say something about the Brazilian team that in 2006. I think they would have done very good work, but I don't think they would also go far. The challenge is, of course, there always has to be balance in football, but I would also argue that there has to be that creative flair to actually break open defenses. A
They
template we are
had
talking.
a lot of that in 2006. I think it is 2006.
No, they
SPC.
had on paper.
There was zero better in that team.
They had a
On
solid
paper.
team in 2006.
No, they had a solid team, but
It's
you
alright.
do know that. But no
There-
disrespect. No disrespect to.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Ronaldo, who is true for me. He's the best striker I've seen play football.
Same,
But
eh?
it was on his decline. There was talk about his weight, and no disrespect. And Ronaldinho, strange enough, you could say in that team that on paper they were solid. They were a solid side. They had Adriano, Ronaldinho, Kaká. But the thing is, you can only be as good as the names and the system that you are being put in. Because you can have, like, say, bro, for example, the Portuguese team were one of, on paper, have the best squad, maybe the best squad. Forget the fact that Ronaldo was the one leading their front line. That midfield was the best midfield in this tournament. But that team, the way they crashed out should tell you quite significantly that they were only as the Portuguese, that Vitinha, Joao Neves, quadrant was only as good as the way Luis Enrique set them up to play.
Roberto Martinez.
And as bad, and they are also as bad as the way Roberto Martinez taught them to play. And if you are a good player and you naturally understand football takes, even if you're not in a good system, you will likely not shine. I believe that you can't. Somebody that's actually the best creator in Europe cannot suddenly know how to not pass the ball forward unless he has been coached enough to do so. But also, I feel that because we are focused more on systems, it has inhibited the natural penchant for a footballer to actually think that, okay, I want to create. And the ability to take the game by the scruff of the neck as against the system that is a coach might set up for you is what Brazilian football thrived on. That natural instinct, the jogo bonito of times past, was not necessarily built on
Systems.
following a system, right? There has to be, and that is the one thing coaches fail to understand and has been a problem in this World Cup. It works for many coaches, but I feel that
how have they been able to navigate? Argentina also used to have this kind of players. Remember even Sebastian Berron. Remember you are me. These were players who could actually take the ball and like
so Argentina,
even so from the back could actually run the ball. Guys who could do something.
They had Hernan Crespo, they had Aima, one of my favorite tens. One of my favorite tens. But I think the difference with Argentina and Brazil is that they have Lionel Messi is always going to be a differential to every It
But
is the differential. And the truth of the matter is, I have a pending worry about Argentina, and I don't want to be a prophet of doom, but the moment he retires, you would see the same Argentina that we're struggling from time past, because they built his game around his genius. That's why I say that there's always going to be some player or one player that you would trust to take risks or to take the game by the scruff of the neck, by instinct, that you don't even, no matter how your system is either built around him or you give him a leeway to do his magic beyond your system. That is what most of all of these countries do. For example, the guy that does this, two guys do it for France, which is Mbappe and Olise. Because those guys, they are, if you look at it, they are giving free reins and to do their magic, because they are the guys that are like standouts. And that is what Brazil have lost. That natural instinct to want to push the ball forward or to do a specific skill to break the defense. Brazil had
Vinicius, he
But
tried that
but,
guy
but I,
was supposed to be
okay,
both Rafinha. They lost Rafinha to injury, so now the old burden of that fell to Vinicius, and I think he tried
yeah.
his best in their
No,
last.
of course it did. But the thing now is that there's, to actually succeed, you need to have multiple sources of influence. Unless you are Messi, that can actually take the game by the scruff of his neck, because he's a Martian on his own. And I don't think Argentina will suffer that dependence for years, but they would actually have the benefit in the short run. But the truth of the matter is, chances are that they would, other teams need multiple sources of influence to have that Messi-like effect. Which is the thing, because if you mark one person, you need to have somebody else that's able to replicate something kind of similar. France now, if you mark Mbappe, you have Olise that can actually do the same effect, right? And that's why they would always be above other teams. For Brazil, there are players that like Bruno Guimaraes, because to me, if you are depending on someone like Bruno Guimaraes as your primary creative source, I feel you deserve to lose games.
I mean, it's just a budget Gilberto Silva, in my opinion. I don't think.
but I feel like Brazil, in a well coached Brazil, should do better than they are doing. I know we are always benchmarking them with 2002 Brazil, right? If
Yeah.
if you take out that star power from your head, right, and go back to the team of 2002, some of those guys didn't have the name that they eventually had. Someone like Gilberto Silva, who was he? I can't remember Roca Jr. before the World Cup, but he probably was the same thing you have with. I know,
Okay.
but but get my point. Today, their backline, you have let's go from the last World Cup till now. Last World Cup, they had a solid team. They had a solid team last World Cup, just didn't have that killer striker. That was the only thing that was missing, if you really think about it, because you had Neymar that was still very good at the time. In their midfield, I think there was Paqueta. This guy was still decent. This sports guy.
Alisson.
Not Alisson. There was this. What's his name?
I know him. He was. They sent him packing as post. Now, what's it called again?
No.
Paulinho. Is it not Paulinho I'm talking about?
Not even Paulinho. Their striker in the last World Cup. He's still Richarlison. He was good. Then he was still a decent striker. So what I'm trying to say is, we are looking at the fact that he was playing for Everton at the time, right? But if you check Brazil of those years, where was Juninho playing? Middlesbrough.
Leon.
But no, he was not that Juninho. That Juninho didn't make 2002.
Oh, Juninho Paulista?
Yes.
Juninho Paulista.
Juninho in Borough, then there was one in Leon.
There's Pernambucano, and there's Paulista, right? Yeah. Okay, you'd say yes, Leon then was a top team. But if you think about it, playing for Newcastle in England today is not the worst thing on your CV. No. Gilberto was not in Arsenal at the time. He was still in Brazil.
There are good players who never made. Do you remember Giovanni Do you know how great Giovanni was for Bayern Munich? He had a career. I don't think
It's
he
So,
made
money.
up 20. They
so my, so Mayowa, right? Get my point. If you ask a random guy that doesn't know 2002 or 2003 who Elba was, they'll be like, this was a farmer. But if you check his profile probably lines up with a Rafinha. But
Mhm.
his profile does not even line up with the Rafinha if you think about it. Rafinha could have easily won the Ballon d'Or in 2014, 2024.
He
In
could have,
24. Yes,
yeah,
he could have easily won it.
he could have stolen.
Vinicius, no matter what you want to say about him, he is one of the best wingers in the world today.
Yeah,
Same with Rafinha. At the back, Marquinhos has lost his powers. So this year, to be fair, the team looks more dodgy than 2023. But people have been saying this thing since 22. They have
mm,
some places
Yeah,
where you have dodgy players,
yeah,
but
for sure.
all their top teams, you had people that were somewhat dodgy. In 2014 that you talked about, the only dodgy person in that team was Joe and Fred. But every other person in the
Mm,
team was solid.
yeah,
What's
yeah.
his name?
because that
You had
Fred was not the, yeah,
it was
was not.
just it was just Fred. It was just Fred that was the dodgy guy.
The
Their
when Fred
backline
was
was
Leon, he was unplayable, but
yes,
it wasn't the same Fred anymore. We
yeah.
had already lost it. And
So
Jao,
in attack, it was dodgy, right?
mm,
But from if you go outside the point man, every other person below was proper stacked. This guy that used to be in Chelsea, I can't remember his name. He was
David
in
Lewis.
he was not David Lewis
Oscar,
was at the back. There was Oscar.
Oh, is
Oscar was at the peak
okay.
of his powers at the time. You had Neymar. And
mm.
what even cost them the game against Germany?
Did they have
Neymar got injured.
Alex in that team? The ex
Which
PSV
of the Alex?
that guy
Chelsea.
who could even play free. Alex, the defender,
I think he had
Chelsea.
ex
reti-
PSV, ex Chelsea.
had
He
he
was in
retired
that team.
had
No,
he
no,
retired by then. But their
no, no,
defense was
no.
proper stacked. You
Alex was
had you had Luis Gustavo from Dortmund at
Wolves,
the time. No, I
Wolfsburg.
think he eventually went to Wolfsburg, but he was at
it was a Bayern
was
Munich
he was
for wow,
was it Bayern Munich or Dortmund? He was in Dortmund.
Bayern, Luis Gustavo.
There was a period Arsenal wanted to sign him. I think he used to be at I don't know, but he was in the top team in Germany at the time.
And this guy as well. Oh, now I remember Dante. It was
There
like
was
that.
Dante.
Dante. There
Yeah,
was Dante.
yeah,
So it was Dante and David Luiz.
yeah.
I can't remember who was their left back. Had Macon
Um,
retired? There,
Marcelo,
no,
there was
no, Meko.
Marcelo. There was Marcelo and the greatest right back ever. What's his name?
Maicon.
Meko.
Danny Alves. The previous
Dani
year,
Oh,
Alves,
Danny
and
Alves didn't even make the team. Macon was the main. Macon had just won the treble.
yeah,
So it's like I understand that it's not 2002. I agree. You don't have Ronaldinho and Rivaldo in the same team, but it's still good enough to do things. And people always say teams are now worse because they've lost the flair. There's a reason why the flair does not exist anymore. If you do it, you will get beaten.
I
If
doubt.
if you
I,
do
I,
if you do, there's a reason why everybody.
At the end of the day, the players with the flair are the one making the difference for their
But
team.
hold
So,
but
so,
hold
so
on, but hold
what I'm
on.
saying, shouldn't we invest more in
You
that
see,
than actually investing in
people,
defense?
you see, people say Pep ruined football,
Why
right?
do you think Real Madrid? Why do you think Real Madrid going to sign Bernardo Silva? What do you think we need Bernardo Silva? What do you think we? What do you
No,
think we?
your Real
Rodri,
Madrid's problem.
we need some flair in the middle for God's sake. We need someone to give us passes that can split the defense. At the end of
I'm
the day,
not saying those things are not necessary, right? But I'm saying if you go back to that free flowing Brazilian way, right, you get beaten today. There's a reason why Pep was walking every league. Till people start saying, you know what, we have to be like him. When people start trying to be like him, what happened? He stopped killing people. When he came,
so,
when you are very familiar with his way in Spain, when he came with his method, he walked your league. Went to Germany. People said he ruined German football, but he walked German league.
came to England.
came to England and turned us to farmers.
For in his
Till
own, man.
till people started saying, you know what, we have to match. And when teams started trying to play like him, guess what? The gap has started to close. Yes, but the gap, if you think about it, the gap is closing.
It did close. I mean,
I
it
I
lost.
I, I don't agree actually.
It lost
I
the league
don't
against Man
agree.
United. It's
You,
not evidence of closeness.
are you
It closed.
are you a Man U fan?
Yeah. How did you guess that
So
correctly?
No, I
so
am actually. I
How
am
you
so
actually. No,
so
that's a good guess. That's a very
so
good
this
guess. That's a
so
very
this is
good guess, but
so
I don't.
United fans would always tell you teams football has gotten worse. If you speak to a Chelsea fan today, they will tell you football has gotten worse. But what is happening is those top four teams, right? A couple of them have gotten worse.
Mm-hmm.
United, Chelsea, Spurs, right? They've gotten worse. But what you are getting is the middle of the pack. So I think is the floor raiser. I don't know how to say it. I think the floor has been raised basically.
Mm-hmm.
So Everton is significantly better than they were before. Everton is now closer to the top than ever before. Bournemouth is closer to the top than ever before. And it's not like they have crazy players. It's you have better coaching and
It's the movement away from is a brand of football that we now play these days.
Exactly. That is the
Everything
problem.
depends
Not
on
the
so
coaching.
stars,
Not the
so
coaching.
so
and
so
that's
so
actually one thing. I mean, it's one thing I used to say like that WhatsApp. This is one thing I'm still happy that Real Madrid have sort of like maintained. I thought we are also going to fall into this whole system thing when we signed Xabi Alonso.
It's,
I don't know what SG means, and I do not want to know. Like this whole
exactly.
into
but those
football, they play.
but those that
What
know
is doing Manchester United? The fact that they brought in all these them ETH, all them Ruben Amorim, all these guys who are stuck on playing system football. Please, Carlo Ancelotti, for God's sake, put the
Let me
players
give you. Let me no.
let them play.
just before you
They show in France. This is
sorry just before you proceed, right? What happened when this guy came back to Barcelona? What has happened since? What's his name?
Enrique.
Not not Enrique. Even Xavi, and when
Flick?
Xavi came back and Flick, they've walked the league since then. So
No. So
So,
they're not playing the same. They're not playing the same brand
no,
of football.
but
Actually,
you see, they are, but it's still that same. We keep the ball. He's
no.
just an advance of what an Ateta, not Ateta, but you get what I'm saying. It's like they still keep the ball,
Sure.
right? They still
Mm-hmm.
try to keep the ball,
Mm-hmm.
but it's faster. But it's still the same concept. I hug the ball, but
No.
they
No.
move faster.
A system is not.
It's not a system. So let me come in.
Would
For me,
you say Madrid and Barcelona are playing that same lack of control, or it's just
no. So one thing I would say is this: one of the best games I've watched in the last 5 years, and I'm not joking, was the Bayern and PSG game.
Which one is that?
That the first leg that ended, is it 5-4 or something like that?
but that game was a nightmare if you think about it.
No,
It was a good game to watch, but it's not
that is
sustainable.
It's not. I know it's not sustainable, but
So
I know it's not sustainable. But
so
the thing is,
you are used to
so
Ateta football.
so the thing is this. You are Rasta fan. Let's leave that.
Let me ask you a question here.
Mm-hmm.
It might work with two top teams playing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If Everton is playing Arsenal and they do that, they will get pummeled.
Okay, so I need you to understand. I need to realize stuff. No matter how much you say, Everton are closer to the top, but they are not on the top of the food chain. But it is quite very distasteful the way football is now, that there are only two ways to play. You try to copy the the Pep way of playing, and you make a very poor imitation of it. Because I've seen poor imitations I see. Or two, I can't beat him at his game. The only way I can beat him is to go and is to pack the boss, be ultra defensive, a la Arsenal against PSG. But I'm not. This is not me slightly attacking any club. But I need you to understand that there's also a middle ground, a purist way of playing that is adaptable, because there are some coaches that actually have hacked this. Have hacked that this Pep system is not it. That if I want to play, if I can't dominate you all over the field for 90 minutes, it's not possible. But if I am well directed enough and take enough risks, I will beat you. I will beat you, and I might pummel you badly. Flick is one of them. This guy at Bayern Munich is one of them. Company, and even in Spain, Luis de la Fuente is one of the coaches that actually understands that you can't use tiki taka to win many games, because tiki taka has become it's become a system, because the guy that even knows how to do it more than most is abandoning it. If you did notice, the last season of Pep, it was less even dependent. He was even more content.
The last 2 seasons. So again, football is about adaptation, right?
Exactly.
There was a period where Pep's proper tiki-taka would destroy any team, right?
He won't even play with the striker when he was on tiki
There was even
taka.
false nine and whatnot.
And teams figured that this was not going to work and changed their ways. And he adapted, because there are a few periods in Pep's career where it was that very slow build-up. Even when he was in Barcelona, it was still tiki-taka, but still very entertaining, still very fast. It was still 5 here, 4 here, gives you 7 here, give you 5 here. What are you looking for in a football game? But to some people, it was boring because they had all the ball and they moved as fast as they needed to move, right? I understand when you say, okay, some teams are now like some Arsenal games where there's a wicked low block and they're just passing side to side. Now, a lot of people criticize it as the main tactics here. I understand that, but it's a reaction to your opponent as well.
Yes.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
A good example is Arsenal versus PSG, right? What did PSG do different from what Arsenal would do against a team playing like that? It was the same. It's just you probably didn't like Ateta's face, and he's always criticized for it. But PSG played exactly how Arsenal would play against a team that sat back.
Yep.
Pass to the side, cross. Then you get 1 or 2 chances and you win the game. That's what PSG did. So sometimes it's a reaction. Sometimes it looks that slow in the build-up because it's a reaction to how other teams are playing. And unfortunately, you don't have not every team has that brute force player like a Messi or a Vinicius or Mbappe. But I'm pretty sure if you remember under Carlo, you guys complained about style of play as well.
I mean,
because you were the ones that were even on the receiving end and hitting on the counter.
So for me, Carlo was never a systems coach, and I think for me, the way football is tending, I feel it's not many coaches that should be doing the system thing. I think when you even allow systems, you kill the natural instinct of a footballer that they have trained or honed over time. And when you do that, chances are that you are limiting what they can do. A case in study at Arsenal is a very chasing, because for me, in a system, a team that depends less on systems, I feel that guy we should be rocking at Arsenal, because to me, he's one of the best Flair players that England has now. But
not really though. Have you really watched him? Have you watched him for Arsenal a lot?
So I've watched. I don't watch Arsenal games.
Exactly.
Of course, they're not my club. But the thing is that your fan base call him a luxury player, which is I think is very unfair.
It's what it is. So I can't remember the player there's a player I'm trying to remember. So with Eze, right? He comes on. He's very lax on the ball. Yeah. I mean, you hear us complaining all the time in the group. He's very lax on the ball. So if you want to be that guy, you get the ball and you do what you've been brought to do with the ball. It's either you're driving and creating lots of chances like Bruno, or you're holding the ball like Odegaard. He does neither. I mean, for Arsenal, he creates more chances or makes more attempts, but it's not high enough to move the needle for a team like Arsenal. So his colleague Olise went to Bayern Munich, and nobody is. This guy still plays the system. What's his name? Company, which is what kind of ruined him in Burnley, and everybody criticized him for it. He still plays the system. It's just he is in a league where he can be faster, and the opposition is not as strong as you'd have in England, right?
Fair enough.
So for me, I won't put Eze's problem on the system. It's up to you. You're on the pitch. You've been given the ball. You're trying to dribble. You're missing your dribbles. You're missing your passes. I understand, I understand, the system can stifle you a bit, but I don't think it's enough for you not to be able to hold the ball and dribble.
So
On the same pitch, you have a Trossard, right? Does something similar. Gets the ball, beats his man, passes the ball, takes his shot. Why is he not doing that?
Okay. Do you want to say something?
I mean, it's sort of like segueing or not away from international
Africa.
Let's leave this in the board now, and we will pick this up maybe next time we're having a conversation, and let's sort of like try to round up so that I don't take much of our time again. Let's look at the quarterfinal pairings and just your opinion on who you think will win their game. So the first one is France, Morocco. Dele, so who do you think goes through, France versus Morocco?
That for me is one of the others. It's one of the others games. One of the ones that I can't predict because I really have been impressed by the Moroccan side and what they've been able to pull off, and I feel that they're a side that can beat anybody on their day. But I've seen Mbappe in menacing form. I have not seen him in this. I've watched Mbappe. I've loved Mbappe since 2017, and I've not seen him in this kind of menacing form. Like it's just like the way Alan is. Like it feels like he's better, faster, and stronger than the rest. Like he can any day, any defender he will perform. And one thing I know about the French side is that to me they are the most adaptable side in this entire tournament. If you play them fancy football, no, not rugged football, they can play you. They'll play you off the park. If you want to go rugged with them, they have the mental fortitude and the control to actually beat you at that particular game. And for me, they have quite a lot of quality in front. And that's why I would pin my thoughts towards them. But they also have their wobbles with African sides. And Morocco are top notch when it comes to that. But it will be pretty close. But I still believe France will definitely win that match.
Agwu, what do you think? France?
I think it's the end of the road for Morocco. Probably going to be a tough game, but I don't think I've been very convinced with their defending in the tournament. It's not bad, but it's still I've not been really convinced with Morocco, if I'm being completely honest about it. So I expect, like you said, France has different set of players to change the game real time. So if the brute force is not working, they have guys that can steady the ship and just tick and change the game. I mean, you could easily swap out maybe Olise and bring in Cherky. It's a slightly different kind of game. You can decide to bring in a regular striker and do something else with Mbappe. So it's like they have different options. And that they're my favorites to win the tournament. So I think they would go past Morocco.
I agree with the optionality of the French team as well. There are some players that we're even yet to see in the competition. We've not seen Mateta, we've not seen Marcus Thuram, we've not seen Rancheki. So yeah, they have that optionality on the bench. You know, even Zaire Emery as well. That short wizard from PSG.
Magnus Aklush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They
So
have too many options.
yeah, the optionality is insane. I think their weakness so far for me that I've seen is actually on the right back. I've not been so convinced with Kunde in the right back, but I still think that France is going to come out victorious in this game. Looking at Moroccans in their last game against Canada, if the Canadians were actually much more decent than they actually are, they would have punished Morocco
Yep.
in the first half. Like they dominated them in the first half. Morocco came back. I think the scoreline is a bit flattering to how Morocco actually
Yes.
played in that game.
Yes.
3-0 is not actually evident of how proof of how Morocco actually played in that game. So well, I think they got lucky. Against France, it's going to be a different ball game. If they can maybe try to hold France, maybe their best bet is to see if they can be very disciplined, hold them throughout the duration of the game, and see what can happen in penalty shootout. But if they
Yeah.
can't do that, I don't see how they can make you train that game. So yeah, the next game is Spain versus Belgium. Who I was picking here, Dele.
Uh,
Spain.
so that for me is that. So one thing I would say is, hmm, I'll go for Spain actually. I'll go for Spain, and I wanted to at a point I wanted to be the devil's advocate and go for Belgium because one thing I'm seeing about them is that they are slowly garnering the belief that they can actually go far, and they have a very scary balance to them if you really look at it. Their defenders might not be the most well known. They now like the coach generation of 2018, but I can see that we can see that they are not so bad, and people like Trossard is actually playing some excellent football. Um, the likes of Lukaku coming from the bench to actually influence games in a positive direction. We also have the likes of Charles de Ketelaere doing some very, very strong work as well. But you can't look beyond the natural Spanish team because um, for me, I think the greatest challenge of France winning the World Cup would be that Spanish side because they have quite a lot of they play football in a way that is very beautiful in the sense that they have apart from France for me the difference between the French and the Spanish team is that the French players have different players to punish you. The Spanish side have different ways to punish you, not necessarily players. No disrespect to Lamine Yamal, who is a fantastic talent. One thing I do know about the Spanish team is that they are not afraid to seek possession, but also punish you on the counter attack. But also, if they want to be precision, play through you with precision, they can do it. So, and they might not have the talents like France have, but they have players that understand what they need to do. Imagine like Merino scoring a striker's goal. Even Oyarzabal couldn't do it, but I know Oyarzabal is has been excellent in this tournament. He said so. It's quite clear that Spain will likely have more than enough than Belgium have because up until the second round they have not been convincing, and I feel that the talent complex might be just too much. That might just be the limiting factor. But I also believe that Belgium have some forces with them, and I think if Courtois has a very good game, is naturally does have a good game most of the time, it will be closer than thought. But I still believe Spain would have more than enough to beat Belgium.
Yeah, Agwu.
Yeah, I think I'd go with Spain as well. But the game depends on Ferran and Oyarzabal. So depends on if they come with their shooting boots. Well, there's Merino on the bench to rescue them, but I think they should be able to power through. Um, I haven't been convinced with Belgium, to be honest. I didn't watch their last game, but it said dropping what's his name? Dropping Doku and De Bruyne changed things for them. It could just be that they played the US and the US is not a really good team, so that might be it. So, but I won't be surprised if Belgium surprises us. But on paper, I'd go with Spain. They have the momentum to. They still haven't considered, right? They haven't considered the goal yet in the
No, they
tournament.
haven't.
So
It's a World Cup record actually.
yeah,
It's a World Cup record.
so I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for them this round.
Yeah, I think we're going to be unanimous on this one as well. I'm also going for Spain. I don't see how the Belgians can go past Spain in this game. They've not been convinced. They've not convinced me at all. In the group stage, they wobbled and just found a way to qualify. and the round of 32. Can't remember what they played, but yeah, then they played the United States. Maybe that has been their most impressive game so far. And one could even say the controversy leading up to that game might actually have been the extra fuel that they need to actually, put up a character and win that game with your Trump influencing a red card decision. So maybe that fueled them and they actually use that anger to play the game. But they've not been convincing. Most of their star players are on their final legs. The Lukaku's, the KDBs, even Couture as well. You might actually just let things go and allow the Manchester United goalkeeper take over the reins. So I don't think most of their star players are people who are going to be seen in the next couple of years playing for them. So this might actually be their last opportunity to make an impression on the biggest stage. So, but I think this is going to be their bus stop. I don't see them going past Spain as well. Next game is going to be Norway and England. How do we see that going? The Vikings against.
Well, for me, okay, this is one game that it's pretty confusing because we have been speaking of teams not being convincing. I've not been convinced by England actually. This is a very very will I say controversial thing, but I've not been convinced by them. I don't know how Tuchel did this. Actually hatched this plan for World Cup, and most times he's trying to. He obviously proves to me that sometimes it's not anybody can't be a coach, right? Because if you look at the selection, you would see that you would think to the naked eye that the selection is not one that can go far. But I think he put a bet on the fact that they would be physically stronger than most teams and would naturally get away with it. And putting Jude Bellingham in, will I say, arguably in place shows very smart acumen. And that Mexico game, they actually showed that they had the cojones to actually go toe-to-toe with many teams because it's not an easy thing to actually win at the Azteca. I saw a stat that was like their third defeat in 83 games. 83 games or 83 games or 83 years actually since they built the stadium in competitive action. So it's a very, very, but one thing I would say is the Norwegian team actually have been super impressive. I would say the coach took a gamble to pick the right spot, and yeah, they knew what they were able to do. And one thing is, Erling Haaland has been in sparkling form. There's an argument that arguably says that what Haaland is doing for Norway is way stronger than what maybe Kylian Mbappe has done, but I don't believe that because Mbappe did this from the age of 19 and all of that. But that's not no disrespect to whatever Haaland has done. He has been super fantastic. It's almost like the feeling that the body language, the aura behind him shows that, oh, I'm bigger, I'm stronger, I'm faster than you. You can't do anything about it. I know that you guys know it strikes fear. And I've not been convinced about England's defense. No disrespect to them. I still feel they have problems at right back. That is never going away. I feel Tuchel has been very, very, despite his flaw in selections, he has been very smart to plug those holes. But it's not a problem. I would arguably say that problem might not show tomorrow in the game because something tells me that the English team will still find a way to win. It's going to be difficult because Norway have very arguably pretty solid players of English proven experience that know most of the players in England. But yeah. I believe that Tuchel has taken a bet on increased stamina over 90 minutes. And I think that bet would actually stand out because in terms of technical superiority, England have better players. In terms of looking at likes of Kane, Jude Bellingham, Rashford, Saka, and Declan Rice and whatnot. But I still feel that the Norwegian team have that underdog influence and Erling Haaland. You can't, is what's the word? Inevitable. Is somebody that you can't take your eyes off on. But I think England should have enough to go through. But if Norway do beat them, I won't be shocked at all because personally, from my eye test tells me that Tuchel has made some mistakes in his selection. But he's proving me wrong, and I think that might continue for the next round.
Yeah, so you're going with England, yeah?
Yes. Yeah, England, sad. It's England, unfortunately.
So for me, I'm tempted to go with the fairy tale story, but I don't think they have what it takes to. I won't say I don't think they have what it takes to go past England, but I feel in tournaments like this, for some reason, that pedigree comes to play. It's like they've been here before and just feel like they can do it. Um, Norway had a very good qualifying round, so we never know. They might still be moving up with that momentum. People say England haven't been convincing enough in the previous rounds, but I have a contrary opinion to it. Against Croatia, they were solid. Probably had the patch where Croatia looked like, and like you said, their defense is, especially on the right side, is a bit wobbly. But in general, they have the firepower to counter the excess goals they're shipping in, and they are creating more chances than their opponents. They are winning their games. Against Panama, they won Panama. Yes, it was not the greatest game, but if you watched the game, it was still England on the up. They just didn't score on time. But they kept on putting the pressure on Panama. What was the last game against Ghana? That was a bit wobbly game, but with the Ghana game, it's what you expect when you play a team that said, you know what, enjoy the ball. We would line 10 men behind the ball. That's what you get from those kind of games. So for me, yes, they did not win Ghana convincingly. And again, I feel people might have disrespected Ghana. Why did everyone just assume that Ghana was going to be a walkover? Like we've been saying before, a lot of teams have improved. So you're hardly going to get that 7-0 that you had against Portugal and Uzbekistan. You're not going to get things like that. What was their game in the round of 32? Who did they play?
Congo.
Congo. Against Congo, they conceded first. But after they conceded, the game was all England. Chances upon chances upon chances upon chances. But the English media controls the narrative. Because they conceded first, took them a while to score 2 goals. Everybody went into panic mode. But what did you get in that game? The goalkeeper was on beast mode. So sometimes it's just unfortunate to meet someone that has decided, you know what, you're not going to score me.
Yeah.
But they did everything that was needed to be done to win the game. They created the chances till they scored 2. So for me, I think the whole England hasn't been great is slightly exaggerated. That being said, I still think England would win the game. But again, I would not be surprised. It's going to be a close game. It's not going to be 5-0, 2-0, 3-0. It's going to be a very close game.
Yeah, I'm probably the only one who will go for the Norwegians here. I think for the story, for what they've done, for what they've given us with their Viking Road celebration, I don't think I want it to win at the quarterfinals. I think they have what it takes to actually go past England. If they can beat Brazil, they can beat England. So maybe Dele also mentioned, for me, I also think the English team have not been too convincing. The best game they played for me is one against Mexico. I didn't see them winning that game at all. But for them to be able to pull up that win, so it shows that the English team actually has something. They have that extra bite. They can actually pull off a win when they need to. They've shown character, which is actually one thing they have going for them. But I think for the sake of the story, for the sake of what the Norwegian team have done so far in this competition, I really want them to go past England, and I think they have what it takes to do it. So for me, I would go for Norway to go past England in that game.
I hope you're right.
Colombia versus Switzerland. So just to do some very quickly. So quickly, Colombia, Switzerland. Who do you think will go through? Then what do you think about anyone from that?
For me, that's there are so many games that I can't predict, but I think that Switzerland Colombia game is one of the most unpredictable. It's a game I really can't see a difference in because they play virtually the same way. It's a conundrum for me because it's going to be quite weird saying that okay, a South American side plays the same as an European side. But I feel that they both sides play without fear. They play with the belief that they are on par with you, not on talent, right? But in terms of sheer will and grit to actually keep going at you till you make mistakes and they can point, and they are very, very efficient. So I know that they are currently playing now, but I would argue that that game might be stretched to the limits. It could even go to a penalty shootout because those sides are very, very good. They are very good sides.
That's new so far.
It's new. I'm not surprised actually. So one thing I'm just trying to look at is I'm looking at the strength of their respective keepers, and I'm sorry to break Colombian hearts, but I think Switzerland would actually win. I don't know how. It's a very hard game, but I think Switzerland will. And if Switzerland, if Switzerland actually get past that, wow, Lionel Messi is a very serious differential because if Lionel Messi was not playing for the Argentina national team, the confidence I would use to close my eyes. I would tell you that the Argentinian team would lose would be so shocking. I wouldn't blink. But if you look at all the Argentinian games thus far, they have been far from convincing. They have been a Lionel Messi difference away from a win or a start to fit, right? And one thing about players of that superior talent is that they are usually inevitable. You can't escape them no matter how much you want to. One thing I know about the Switzerland team is that they are very disciplined in defense. They are not going to be like the Egyptian team that would batter highly. My only issue with them is, can they be as brave? Would they want to be as brave? Because one thing is, for players that are as good as Messi, you need to actually respect them and respect what they can do on the pitch. So would they want to come with the mindset of how the African teams play and have that balance to be able to match that with their very strong defense, right? That could be where the game could be won and lost. The game could be won and lost in that balance because Argentina are not playing like a team with total balance. I would say they are a team that know their strengths, know that they have the will to win games and they have the player to win games. And that could stand out for Argentina in winning this game. But I could be wrong. I really wish it's not the case. If it's Colombia, because I'm struggling to differentiate the two. I think that would be a tighter game because Switzerland will be likely, for me, in terms of Colombia, will be a harder team to play than Argentina because I think Colombia have the wherewithal to actually beat Argentina and hurt them. But can they beat Switzerland? That's the question. Switzerland are a very solid side, but if Switzerland do get through, they need to also believe in themselves that they can hurt. They should be able to watch the last two games and see that they can hurt Argentina as well as hold them to a standstill. If they can't do that, they can get through. But I don't think that will likely happen. I think the naivety of not being able to mark Messi across 90 to 120 minutes will play out, and Argentina will make a semi-final.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll go on.
For me, it depends on who meets Argentina. Like you said, even before the tournament, I wasn't exactly convinced with the Argentine squad. I think I've said that for a very long time. But again, with Messi, it's a wild card. So if it's Colombia, I would bet on Colombia knocking out Argentina. Switzerland, I would bet on Argentina going through if it's Switzerland. But Colombia, again, South American teams have this thing with themselves. I think Colombia has always been a very tough game for Argentina, and it's not one of those years where Argentina had a lot of superior players. So it's going to be a difficult one for Argentina if they eventually meet Colombia. If it's Switzerland, then I would say Argentina would go through.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to look at it from the POV of who I think can actually match Argentina, and because of that, I'll be going for Colombia. The Colombians are the ones that can, in terms of strength, they can match the Argentines. They can, they are very rugged, mostly made of a black footballers. They are stronger. They can go the length of 120 minutes if it gets to that point. I think Switzerland, at some point, they would crack. The Messi effect is going to take effect, and for some reason, they're just going to crack and lick in a goal. If you watch the way the Colombians played Portugal, like they actually matched them strength to strength. They topped that group, if you remember. So I think they are the ones who I think can match the Argentines if they get to play in the quarterfinals. And because of that, I think I would wish that Colombia can find a way past Switzerland. And I would love to see that South American derby, in the in the quarterfinals. It's going to make up for a very interesting tie actually. And they are the ones
Yeah,
that I can actually match the Argentines and maybe eliminate them before they get to the
yeah.
semi-final.
Yeah, just to add though, I feel we are just limiting the Colombians to their physical tendency or their physical strength or ruggedness. But I also feel that they are a pretty brave and expressive football inside. I I watched the Portugal game and they gave Portugal a variety of problems with the likes of Luis Diaz, Luis Suarez, James Rodriguez that is still doing fantastic things even at the ripe age of 35.
And now
And
Valencia,
the from
yeah,
no, that's
Valencia is
Ecuador actually.
Ecuador.
that's Ecuador, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and they have fantastic right back in Daniel Munoz. So the thing is, they might not have the household names as the other teams, but in terms of talent, in terms of experience, in terms of skill, they are a very brave and expressive side, and they would give a variety of teams problems from back to front. They are not a team that will sit back and allow you dominate them, and that's one thing Argentina would not want, as you can see from the other teams. And I think it's not just limited to their physical strength; it's more or less to that technical and some bravery and spirit at the end of the day.
Yeah. This has been a very interesting. It's been very, very. I thought we wouldn't go past an hour, but now it's an hour, 44 minutes in. So, yeah, thank you so much, Dele and Agwu, for especially because this was actually impromptu. It's not as if I informed you guys earlier that we are going to be doing this. So, thanks for joining impromptu. And yeah, so thank you.
So, yeah.